Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Street Fighter Duel video. I've got a headset on, which you know is different, I don't normally do that. I'm starting a new series here on the channel where I'm going to be showcasing players within the community. Probably starting off with free-to-play players, who knows, maybe we'll also venture into like top level whales and stuff like that. But for episode 1, we are going to start off by talking to Tixs, who you could argue is either the best or one of the best free-to-play players in the game at the moment. He would probably say it's Pika, however a lot of his progress is either ahead or alongside Pika. Plus Pika's got his own channel, so I'll bring somebody else on here. Tixs, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. Yeah, glad to be here. I mean, I'm one of the players in the Discord community that is well known in the free-to-play industry. But then, yeah, like you said, I consider Pika to be the best, but right now I consider myself to be like the top free-to-play player, but not the best free-to-play player.
Well, I would argue if you're top, you're the best. Hey, screw Pika. I'm only kidding on. I like Pika. Pika's a great guy. So I'm going to be basically asking you various different questions about your account, about your growth and stuff like that. Just going to freeball it and see how it goes, right? So the first thing I want to ask you is, were you a typical free-to-play player? Did you re-roll a lot to get your perfect start in the account? Did you just take what you were given? What was your starting out phase when you were playing?
Okay, so I started off not the earliest, so I'm not a day one player. You can see over here, my server is 261 in the EU side. For the general consensus, it's like a lot of players didn't know what they're doing at the start. A lot of YouTubers are still finding out how to go through the game. So I started off actually not in the mindset of, okay, you gotta get steps of honor, you gotta, this is the best character to start off with. So I started off without getting any of the steps of honor for the first 3. And my main DPS, funny enough, even though right now, if you look at the account, I have Guile right here. But when I started off, I was actually using Mad Ryu because you get a lot of copies for free. But then I pivoted quite early. So that's why the progression was more smoother in the later half of the game.
You are stealing my later questions. I've got right. So the next thing I was going to ask you was, did you actively target steps of honor? So you've kind of said you missed the first 3, but did you then quickly realise, hang on, I should really try and get these? And did you start to push to try and get the following steps of honor? Did that become a focus for you when you were playing?
Yes, when I first, because in my server there were 3 well-known whales. Well, you can't say they're dolphin. They're not really. I don't know how you would categorize whales or not, but they were definitely harder in the start to compete with the whales because they spent money, right? Mm-hmm. So then once the first 3 steps of honor I wasn't able to get. I think the first one that I saw true potential was a 18-40. They were like slacking off, and then the B Zangief strategy was not really well versed yet, so then it was more towards overpowering. And once the strategy of using B Zangief was slightly like creeping up, I saw the potential of overtaking it. And then once you got the first hit of steps of honor, it became like a steamroll. Like, oh shit, now I don't know if you're allowed to swear.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, after the first step of honor, you start to get like, okay, I'm trying to get this one, and I think I ended off before the timer runs out at 28-40, which is not the full steps of honor, but I take what I can get.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I was actually quite disappointed that steps of honor system disappeared. It felt like something that would be good to keep long term, especially for the tower, because who was ever going to hit the top level towers? You know what I mean? There was just so many that felt like they could push it a little bit further. Well, you gave us a quick look at your box. Go back into your box to have a little look at what you've done. So obviously this is all free to play. On the main screen, if you guys noticed, he's still got his Chung Li there saying make your first purchase. So when it comes to your box, Did you target Guile? Have you picked him up from like events and stuff like that where you could get him? Have you picked him up from shops when it's refreshed? Have you picked him up from boxes? Or has it just been pure luck that Guile just has blessed you? What's been the score with him?
So it's funny enough that like in the early on, a lot of players were the general consensus of like, okay, Thunder is the best faction. We now know that Wind is like pretty good because all the characters that they have over here is quite top tier, while selective few of the Thunders are pretty good. So I had a bunch of Mad Ryus and I didn't have my Wind units built up. But then I was after the B Zangief strategy like crept up, I was looking into like, oh shoot, like what other options are free? And this guy was here, Guile was here, right? Mm-hmm. And Guile's an AoE unit that pairs well with B Zangief's pulling. Mm-hmm. And with right now you have to use B Zangief, right? Mm-hmm. So then most of my copies come from here. While I had like SSS Mad Ryu, my Guile, I was starting to use him over Mad Ryu in I think around chapter 20 or 21. And most of the copies come from here. And then if you push story, you actually have a bunch of summons that you get from the missions and a bunch of summons that you get from these steps wards, like 20 factional tickets. I went all on Wind. So then it accumulated my Wind to become like better than the other factions.
Sure. Now, when you were talking about the shop, you obviously are free to play, so currency is something that you covet. Did you refresh that? Did you actually pay the 1,000 to refresh it to get more than one copy and stuff like that, or did you just let time pass? See, yes, I feel like that was smart. I think what a lot of free to play players don't understand, and you obviously do, is holding your currency is actually going to really slow you down more than anything, because you, in this game particularly, you need to kind of move on to get the better idol rewards, to get the VIP points needed to like start unlocking Blanca, for talking sake. You need to push on through the story, and you're going to get a lot more back from the game by doing things like picking up these characters, by refreshing, possibly buying gear, summoning, just literally summoning, get yourself dupes, grow your account. I think a lot of people aren't used to that, because when you're free to play in a lot of other games, like say Dokkan, it pays to save your currency to target new units that come later. I don't feel like this game necessarily works like that. Sitting on your currency is just going to prevent you earning more stuff later, and it seems like that's pretty much what you embodied when you were building your account and starting your account out. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's exactly that. I would always like, before you buy Guile, before you buy like before you spend your currencies, you first have to like think about yourself. Like what I did is I built units one by one, so I don't have a bunch of S and S plus copies, so then I'm not tied to them. Once you made, like, for example, if I made a Able, okay, you're not supposed to do this, right? I have a copy of Guile, right? If I made Able S plus, I'm tied to Able and I cannot pivot if someone else was over there. And you got to think to yourself like, oh, if I made Able S plus or SS, will he help me in my main team? Will he help me in this position or in this content? I would say if the answer is no, then there's no need to promote or awaken your heroes. Like, for example, if I was making Dalsim to S plus or SS plus, and there's no need for me, like he won't benefit in any way, why would you put the resources to build him now? Like right now, I'm building multiple teams for the faction tower. That's why I'm building most of the units. I would technically not make units to SS plus without having the copies, like my Street Poison, but Street Poison's a real like outlier, because you need her in most of the guild contents, and you need her right now to push like higher deficits, because if you want to go into like team building and how I push further, I don't know if it's one of your questions, but I'll touch into that later. But the general gist is that I wouldn't build characters right now or promote them or awaken them if they don't provide anything right now. Like going back to like buying Guile copies or using all their resources at once, if that Guile copy could get you the edge of like pushing you further to get the Steps of Honor, like overtaking it from someone, then you would buy it. But if that one was like, okay, I just buy one guile copy, but I still need 3 more, why would I buy it now? I would just wait and then buy it when you can promote it. Because what if you get it from a random A shard or anything like that?
Yep.
Then you're gonna shoot yourself, on the foot.
Yep, and that's exactly what happens in life. You purchase something, you then suddenly pull it for free. That's what tends to happen in these type of games. Now, a thing that I don't know if you're quite with this. I think you are though. Very early on, I said that Mad Ryu was overrated. I feel like Mad Ryu starting out in this game was really put on a pedestal of being like the top level unit, the best unit. It'll carry you all the way through the game. Now, obviously, because I very quickly went ahead, I found that he doesn't really have a place later in the game. He's very hard to sustain, to keep alive. He, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, AoE never really goes away. AoE remains the most powerful thing in this game. Single target, yes, for bosses, but for stages, for pushing forward, you really need to stack AoE as much as possible. And I find that Mad Ryu is a character who was vastly overrated. He's great for early game, but even mid to late game, he starts to heavily drop off. I feel like you noticed that quite early because you were always pushing Guile over Mad Ryu. But where do you sit on this guy? Do you think he is massively overrated still, or do you think people have started to see the light on this one?
I mean, definitely, like you mentioned, AoE is like king for like story, but like if you're looking at bosses or sometimes in PvP scenarios, like his Mad Ryu is actually not bad in PvP because once you get like 1 kill, the kills go, comes in with the damage. But then in like high deficit contents or something like that, the problem with characters is, well, you mentioned like single target, but the other one is scalability. I think if you look at most of his skill, except this one, where like defense shred or others would, if you look at the damage spread as a graph, early on, like Viper and everyone like that has a really good damage. Like it probably is better than Guile early on, but then as higher deficit or higher contents come, enemies would have more defense, right? So then things with higher defense, like Guile's abilities, his defense shred, if you build him completely full, could get up to 74%, I think, with all the saber stacks, with all the defense down. So the curve for damage output, possible damage output, would curve like inwards more later than other characters. But like Viper's like arguably like the second best because she has AoE. But I most players in higher content, right, with burn goes straight towards the HP. So then it's kind of like a better version than just pure damage multiplier and just attack stat. Yeah. That's how I see like characters in the long term.
Viper's a character I like. I find her a bit weird though because she's almost like a hybrid character. She could be thunder, she could be fire. She's got both. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's kind of interesting, but obviously she sits on a fire team. So you mentioned about like team building and stuff and where we're going to touch on it. This is a little bit of a kind of open section in the video where I was going to ask: is there any strategies or any systems that you've stumbled upon, came across, you enjoy using? Like what's the thing that you're most proud of within the game, basically? Maybe it's content you've beaten, maybe it's a stage that you've beaten, maybe it's a strategy for dealing with someone like Bison. What is your sort of a favourite thing that you've maybe discovered in the game?
Okay, so I don't like it that I think I still have maybe it's in the mall. Yeah, her is quite really good for higher deficit push. You might not think she's good as a character for like later stages, but then you use her for the assist, right? I think you made an assist tier list and rated her quite highly, and I agree completely because if you right now I'm stuck with a Bison stage and I used both of my Merc tries. So then it's either I get really lucky and not crit Bison and crit the other characters, but if I had the Merc, I can put Fashion Sakura on your DPS. And when Bison's revive, you will have 3 immunity shield, 1 from Fashion Sakura and 2 from Abel. So completely ignoring his revive 3 AoE, and you can clear it after the revive happens. That's generally, it's not really talked upon too much, but in having Abel combo 1 with Fashion Sakura on the assist, basically you don't need to worry about Bison reviving. But as a free-to-play player, right, you can't get Fashion Sakura for free. Maybe they'll introduce something, but that's just wishful thinking. But that's the general, like, okay, a lot of people are stuck in 28-40, 29-40, or some stages with Bison. The easiest way to just power through it is just with a Fashion Sakura and an Abel.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, we're coming to the end anyway. I've only really got 2 more questions that I want to ask you, and you've, without even realising that, you've given me a very interesting segue to my final question. So you obviously mentioned there about Fashion Sakura, how she's quite good, but unfortunately free-to-play players don't have access to her. So as a pure free-to-play player, you obviously are aware, I mean, I put out a video yesterday, I'm sure others will be talking about it soon. They're taking Flame Chun-Li and they're making her into a legendary character, and she's going to be in them all, which unfortunately, unless they change something with how those characters are obtained, that's going to be another unit that free-to-play players can't access. Now obviously we've had various incidences of this so far, with the likes of Ken and obviously Akuma being much harder to get than you would hope he was going to be. Has this impacted you in any way? Has this kind of made you, I know you still enjoy the game, and I'm not saying you're going to quit, that's not what I mean, but as a pure free-to-play player, how does these type of summons affect you? How do they make you feel about the game when you know there's these units that you would love to get, but they're just hard locked from you being able to access? How does that affect your desire to keep going?
Okay, so I mean, I always preach, playing your favorite characters over the meta, even though I'm not playing some of my favorite characters. Like, I generally don't have like ties to B Zangief, but you need B Zangief. Like, I like M Bison, so I'm happy that he's a good character, so I'm playing him. But like, I'm okay with Guile and everything like that. But with Akuma is like one of my favorite units. So like, being not able to use him at like a potential, it doesn't like hurt, but then it's like, oh, I wish I could play him as a DPS character without any niches. You cannot play him without a certain SSS Ascension, so that's what sucks. But with AMH also, like, I didn't really, like, you only get like 12 tiers as a free to play to pull, and it was like throwing around like that the soft pity was around 13 or 13 to 20 pulls. So then it kind of hurt that we couldn't get like additional copies besides just that one copy. As a free to play, you cannot get AMH like nowhere near SS or SSS to be usable. So that hurts. But with Fashion Sakura and other and the new Chun-Li, the fire or the water or the wind one that's coming out.
It's going to just a spoiler. It's going to be fire. I'll tell you how I know. Basically, there's I think he's called the Completionist. He put out a video, and one of the staff members said, "Oh, the new character that everyone's talking about is in the Completionist video." So I went to look, and the character that's in the Completionist video is Fire Chun-Li. So taking it at face value, that is pretty much, I'm seeing it as confirmation that it's going to be Fire Chun-Li, which is disappointing because Fire really needs the buffs.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree. Generally, like, if I had more like special connection with Chun-Li and I really wanted to use that character, then it does suck. Like, but I would think there should be a way for a compromise for like free to plays to be able to get it and pay to win players to be able to get it. Like there should be like pay to win players can get it for like $50 is quite a lot, but then it's to get like a fully maxed character. I guess it's worth that amount. But then in other games you might be like, okay, instead of paying $50, I might be able to just transfer some of these currencies that we have that is tied to these shops and slowly get it.
Yeah.
And whales would not feel bad that it's for free to play can get it as well, because these currencies are hard to get, and maybe they would want to just get a copy of Jury or Rose from these shops, so then they don't feel bad. Oh, okay, you know what? I pay $50, but I'm still gonna be able to purchase a Jury or a Rose, while free to play only can purchase that legendary or that Fire Chun-Li or Fashion Sakura. That's what I would feel.
I mean, I think from speaking to you, I think you would actually quit at this point, but you said you stopped playing AFK around about 2 years. I think that after that point is when they introduced a lot of the new systems, and what they do, as far as I'm aware, because I've not unlocked it yet, but I've seen it, is when a new character comes out. So right now they've got the RE0 collab, which has got Rem and Amelia, who are basically legends. You link them, exact same system.
Yeah.
Right? And the way it works is you can purchase the unit, or you can work through like all these kind of missions and trade-ins and stuff, and eventually you can earn the unit, but it takes a long time. We're talking like it can take over a month or whatever to like earn enough to get the unit for free. And the thing is, if someone is a whale, they don't want to spend all that time playing because they've got other games to play, they're doing other things, so they will just buy the unit. Whereas a free-to-play player who is more dedicated will grind all these different elements to get the unit for free. So whales aren't missing out because they don't want to spend the time doing all these things, and free-to-play players aren't missing out because if they choose to not do those things, then that's fine, but they can also choose to do those things and get the unit for free. So it's a nice compromise, and it does mean that, okay, if you're free to play, you won't get the unit while it's most hype, while it's brand new, but you will get it for free. You know, if you work at it and you put your focus into doing the specific tasks, missions, whatever's involved. I think that would be a good system for Street Fighter. I think that it would kind of cross that divide between being, do you know what I mean, a pay-to-play unit and also allowing access for free-to-play players. Yes, again, you're not getting it straight away, but I'm sure if you were told just now that work at this checklist of things and in a month and a half's time you can get Fashion Sakura for free, you would go now and you would start doing the missions, because as a free-to-play player, you know you've got to put in the effort. You know you can't get every unit, but you want the opportunity to be able to get them at least, you know. So you kind of half spoiled my final closing question. I don't think you did exactly, because there's a lot to choose from, but I just want to finish it up on a more personal thing, and I want to know, what is your favourite Street Fighter game and who is your favourite Street Fighter character?
Funny enough, this is my first. I'm not well versed in the Street Fighter game scene.
Shocking! Shocking! I need to take that. I can't put this video up now. That's just appalling. No, but on you go. Seriously, on you go.
But yeah, it also could be tied towards, you know, the rarity and everything. That I mean, I know some lore, but it's not like the best with all the characters in the game. But I just generally like the aesthetics of N. Bison, and just the smile is just menacing, because he's probably like the most non-free-to-play character, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, like you as a free-to-play, you can get this character, but like events, they would never put M. Bison into, like, you know, those street art boxes or those exchange currencies towards M. Bison, because they know that this character is really good. Mm-hmm. So I've just have that small tie towards this character, just because he's the best, and also just because I like his aesthetic.
Sure. Well, since you never answered that question, I suppose I'll just say what mine is just now for the first episode, so that we've got each episode somebody says what their favourite Street Fighter game is. My favourite Street Fighter game is Street Fighter Alpha 3. If you're going to actually try some of the 2D fighters, I personally rate Street Fighter Alpha 3 as the best of the bunch, really. It's got a massive roster, really good characters, and for me, when it comes down to favourite characters, I've played this game since I was a young boy, back in the 90s in the arcades, playing the game properly. And from Street Fighter 2 onwards, I was always a fan of the Hadouken boys. So for me, it was always Ryu and Ken. Early days, Ryu was my favourite character. Nowadays, it seems to be Ken. I don't really know why, but for me, Ryu and Ken are my two favourite characters. And unfortunately, we don't have a basic standard Ryu and Ken that can kind of go into team builds just now. So I'm really hoping that, although they're not quite standard, the fashion versions of Fashion Ryu and Fashion Ken will be accessible, and there'll be units that I can put into team builds in the future, you know, because that's what I'm here for. I don't necessarily want my teams to have to revolve around my favourite characters, which is actually something I like about AFK Arena. I don't have attachment to those characters, so I can just build what I want. But with Street Fighter, because I love the franchise so much, I really want a strong team that has a Ryu and a Ken in it. So I'll plug the gap for this one, but next episode I'm going to make sure whoever comes on has played the bloody games, and then I'll get them. Would you consider now buying Street Fighter 6? Is that something that you would consider now that you have a bit of attachment towards the franchise?
Yeah, I mean, this game is a gateway towards maybe playing the Street Fighter 6 game. I mean, I really like once I complete this stage, it's like you see those like KO screens, it actually gets you pumped and hyped.
Yep. I get that. The problem is, as soon as you've hit one KO screen, you're like, oh no, it's time for another wall. Although this one thing I will say about this game that I do enjoy, well, I say enjoy, it kind of confuses me sometimes as well. Whenever you hit a wall and you break that wall, you never usually immediately hit a wall straight after. You usually, not all the time, but usually you get a couple more stages and then you hit a wall again. It doesn't seem to be an immediate thing. So hopefully when you get past this stage you're on just now, then you will be able to progress a little bit further. I'm not sure if you... I think you borrowed a character off me this month, but I'm not sure who it was. If you did.
I think I borrowed your... Because, yeah, Abel is pretty good for Bison fights.
I upgraded my Abel because of you. You were saying that I never use Abel, like I never ever use him, but when you asked to borrow him before, I said, look, I've not upgraded his fighting spirit, and you were like, oh. So I've upgraded his fighting spirit, I've got more cars on him now as well, so he will be better if you're using him for content, just to make you aware. So in future, that's you. I finally got my guile today up to 3 cars as well, which is good, but unfortunately, I don't have my guile up to fighting spirit 30. If I had him up to fighting spirit 30, I would be interested in trying the guile cheese trick. Oh, well, one thing, I never checked it. Go and flex your score. Let's see your score in the Akuma trial. What's your score? You've not flexed it in the video.
Right now it's just 175. I just don't want to, you know, scare anyone, and then I'll hit the bigger numbers later.
Are you using guile cheese?
Yes.
Sad.
I mean, you gotta since I built a guile, you know, and I saw the guile video with all the street poisons, like, okay, might as well, you know, use it, and it's been working with me. But I have to say, I think the fire comps is quite slept on, like with Dalsim, with Viper, and then with Fashion Blanca. I think they could get a high score just because all of these buffs are revolving around, you know, fire damage and everything like that. But no one's been...
The buffs are really confusing, actually. Like today that we got a new virtue added, we could add a second red virtue, and even running the exact same comp that I set my high score with, adding in a new virtue that increases damage, I can't equal my score. It makes no sense. It's like they should in theory be stronger. It should be easier to smash that score, but I can't. I don't understand the mode. This mode is very RNG dependent. It really does depend on things like crits. For you with Guile, it's really going to depend on you getting saber stacks, for example, which maybe sometimes you'll get them, maybe sometimes you won't. That element, oh, I hate RNG. I hate RNG. I hate when my whole strategy has to revolve around RNG.
But I mean, alongside towards that comment, it's good that you can unlimitedly try this event, so then technically you can manipulate the RNG in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were to time gate it, or when you have to purchase prize from the MHK event, you technically can't really, like, you know, compete towards the higher scores, because you're like, okay, you know what? For the MHK event, like, I'm only doing like the X amount of tries, and then I'm not willing to spend, you know, 50 gems, or I don't know how much gems they were. So then you're technically like stuck there. But with this, you're just constantly competing with one another. So then you're technically finding the best possible, like the best strategy.
Sure. I would say that that's actually a good point. It encourages experimentation, basically. It encourages you to try new things, to try new equips, to try new team comps, which is good. Unlike the Malagia dragon event where, yeah, as you said, if you wanted to try and push harder, you had to spend more to do so, you know. But that's it basically. So this is episode 1. Tixs was my first guest. We will hopefully do more of these in the future. I've just got to really line up the right people. If you're interested in me potentially showcasing your account, I must say, unlike a lot of YouTubers, I don't want actual access to your account. You would do it yourself and we'll talk through what we can see. Let me know in the comments down below, or let me know in my Discord. Since you're the guest, why don't you have the final word before I say goodbye?
Okay, guys. Guile is pretty good. You should build Guile. Against Viper and Guile, I would still go Guile because, yeah, there's no bias there. Bye, guys.
None at all. Anyway, guys, I've been Hayzink. Thanks for watching. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.